Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Anna. I really appreciate it. I know I kind of came on the spot just wanting to participate and learn. And so I appreciate you handing this opportunity to me to share what we have been doing. Like Anna said, for the last 3 years, I have been involved with GoCamp online when the pandemic started. I developed relationships with teachers over in Cherkasy and Zaporizhia, and with one particular school, the Cherkasy Lyceum of Humanities and Law. My colleague had approached me and had asked to do a speaking topic on resilience. So what was supposed to be just one session of teaching and talking about resilience, it actually turned into a 3-week unit on resilience. And as a result, the students developed tools that were all both creative and practical and insightful to help them cope with the war and to help them cope with the stresses with the war and to look beyond where they are at. And in fact, all of this is applicable not just to students, but to even us as teachers. And actually, it was very insightful for my colleague and I. We were not expecting to gain as much from this unit as we did. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure everything cooperates. Okay. And without further ado, so as my screen decides to load and wake up itself, like Anna said, a little bit about myself. I do have a master's in psychology with a specialization in child adolescent psychology. I am also a certified trauma interventionist. I have worked 10 plus years in US special education. And currently right now, I do teach ballroom dance, which is a little outside of my forte, but I still volunteer with GoCamp. And as a TESOL certified instructor right now, during the day, I hold a speaking club for Ukrainian refugees and immigrants who have come to Texas as a result of the war. And I also do private tutoring as well. So I'm very active in the diaspora. And like I said, I also have my TESOL diploma, and I'm also a published writer through Elephant Journal, which specializes in insightful and personal development, if you will. Real quick before I begin, can everyone see my screen in the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, good. but Rosemary, sorry to interrupt you, but maybe I should share my screen and to make the presentation a little bit bigger and
okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone could see you as well.
Okay, so while Anna is doing that, all of you who are participating, what I'd like for you to do right now is think about the word resilience and place your answers in the chat. So just take about a minute or two, and just really think about what your definition of resilience is. And put it in the chat. The ability to cope with stressful situations, okay. Ability to overcome difficulties. Problem solving, I like that. Very good, thank you, Tatiana, I like that. To overcome challenges and obstacles with little stress, okay. Emotional intelligence, yes. Any other thoughts or ideas? Facing challenges? Adapting to circumstances, yes, absolutely. Critical thinking approach. Okay, maybe one more. Do we have any more? Ability to overcome quickly, yes. A way to survive in stressful situations and stay healthy in it. Excellent point, to remain healthy during this. The ability to be stable, yes, in stressful situations. Could we go to the next few slides, Anna? Or do
Yes, of course, you can move and scroll the slides.
Oh, okay.
Or you may just show me a sign and I will do it for you.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay. So everyone had great answers, and this is actually how we started our speaking topic on resilience with our students. We had the students define the word for themselves. We have Webster's dictionary, or at least over in the States, we have Webster's dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary definition of resilience. And then we had the students' definition of resilience. And really everyone that answered hit the nail right on the head. In essence, resilience is growing through challenging times instead of being held hostage by them. Okay, and that's my own personal definition of resilience. And we will come back to this point later on in the presentation. So basically, the goal for the teacher and I was to help the students begin to speak openly about the war and how it was affecting them, but to structure that conversation in a way that would help them understand their feelings, understand what factors that they had, that they were working with, but also help them develop tools that would help them grow.
Okay, I will do it for you. I will do it for you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So the objective of teaching resilience, equipping the students with tools that will help them cope with the present situation while looking to the future at the same time. As I said before in the last slide, we do not want anyone feeling like they're being held hostage by their situation. And people who do lack resilience tend to trap themselves in those situations. And sometimes it's by no fault of their own. Sometimes they lack the tools. Other times it's because they don't know any better, or because they don't have the guidance. And sometimes they don't know how to apply the guidance and tools that they have. So what we wanted to do was make sure that the students could acknowledge what was going on, but also look ahead and understand that this will not last forever. Generally, people who are resilient understand that hard times do not last forever, and that those times will end, and they need to have an end game or a plan in order to overcome that situation. They need something to look forward to, and that's exactly what we wanted our students to do. Okay, so when we want to use our educational language in thinking about the objectives for Cherkasy students, first, we wanted to develop a working definition of resilience that made sense to the students, hence why we had them create their own definition using what they knew of the topic. Then we wanted to create useful and practical tools through their nightly tasks, so their homework, that would both help them thrive, and that could also be done in the classroom or at home. So the activities that we created and that you would want to create as a teacher, you want them to be able to either do it at home or in the classroom. It shouldn't be anything too stressful for them. Third, we wanted to create a safe space for the processing of emotions, voicing of objections, and showcasing the creativity. So some of the tests that we had really had the students put themselves out there, creatively speaking, especially when we got into our storytelling unit, portion of the unit. And then fourth, we wanted to help them develop a positive self-image for the students in order to combat the negative messages coming from outside media and propaganda. Anytime there is a war or any kind of division where you have one side against the other, there will be a bombardment of negative propaganda to help, that is meant to demoralize. So what we wanted the students to do was look at their positive qualities, not just as an individual, but also a Ukrainian. And when we did Go Camp over the summer, we were able to take that even further. And the theme for Go Camp was My Superpower is Ukrainian. And the students were really able to embrace that and really understand for themselves what it means to be Ukrainian. And then finally, we wanted to expand the English vocabulary through the use of words in the psychological lexicon through speaking and writing. So yes, we want the creativity, we want to build emotional intelligence, refine it, build resilience and fortitude. However, we have to remember we're language teachers and we need to expand their vocabulary. So here we are taking from a subject area, in this case, psychological, to help the students develop and expand their vocabulary through writing and speaking creatively and academically. Okay. So when we looked at the learning outcomes, we found that students were able to make meaningful reflections regarding their situation through self-inventory exercises and creative tasks. I'll go into our self-inventory exercise later on, but we had creative tasks like storytelling where they had to be the hero. And then also vision boards to help them keep a positive vision and picture for the future that they could always rely upon. Second, students were able to examine their future through a mindful lens and created realistic expectations for themselves. So many of them were able to maintain a consistent vision for the future. They're not giving up on their dreams of going to college. Some of them realized, okay, if I can't go to school in Ukraine, I may have to go abroad. Like, so there's an acceptance that if it can't happen in one place, they can still keep the goal, but just do it in another area. 3, students developed a more positive self-image and outlook on themselves, their country, and what it meant to be, and what it means to be Ukrainian. Students also developed a more empowered mindset regarding their future as an individual and a Ukrainian as well. So when they were talking about how proud they were to be Ukrainian, what we wanted to do was get them to think about how they could use that to help in the present and contribute in the future. And we had a lot of positive outcomes. We had one student who actually, I'm sorry, this one was from Kremenchuk, but he wants to create a pig farm and make salo so that he is the only producer of salo for all Ukraine. Like, that's how he wants to contribute, because he knows how important that is for everyone in his country, which we thought was absolutely wonderful. And he wants to use his skills in computers to market it and get the word out and everything. Also, other learning outcomes, English vocabulary expanded as a result of exploring the lexicon related to another area of study. And then finally, we saw expressive writing and speaking expanded and improved considerably through writing and speaking tasks, as well as consistent facilitation by the lead teachers and myself. So as you see, the key words in both of these slides were create, develop, expand. It's not quantitative results that we were looking for, but rather qualitative results that we were looking for. And this really helped take the pressure off students. It opened up the creative channels for them and really got them speaking about the things that matter most. And they were able to express their emotions, anxieties, if you will, in the English language. Let's see. Okay. So how am I supposed to teach resilience? This can be a very sensitive subject, even in US schools where emotional expression and individuality is praised and encouraged. It's still a tough subject to teach because we want to help our students build emotional fortitude and refine intelligence, but at the same time, we don't want to enable behavior. And there's always sometimes a misunderstanding as to what resilience is. Is it remaining in victimhood and just accommodating victimizing behaviors, or is it teaching them how to grow and, like many of our teachers said, remain stable, healthy in stressful situations? So first we have to understand what resilience really is. This is once again going back to why I had you define the word for yourself. Without an understanding of what resilience is, that's when we fall into the spectrum of enabling victim behavior. And that's not what resilience is all about. It is about growing through situations, learning, and not allowing these situations to keep you stuck in your situation. So then we went on to have the students define the term for themselves as well. Then we created practical and achievable objectives, as we saw in a few slides back. We wanted to make sure that we were achieving both academic, but yet also emotional and cognitive objectives. But we had to be realistic and look at the situation. The students are in a situation that is fairly new to them, and we had to give them leeway and grace. However, the students rose to the occasion and were able to fulfill the expectations and go above and beyond that. When creating tasks, we wanted to make sure that they help improve English language acquisition, vocabulary expansion, as well as written and spoken expression. So we're going to look at all the different parts of the English language. We want to look at your nouns and your verbs, but we also want to get into emotional words and really explore those and help the students explore the usage of that language as well, because emotional and cognitive language is really a language all in itself and very beautiful, especially when applied to poetry and storytelling. We differentiated the tasks so that students would benefit across the board. You know, in your experience, you have students who are more cerebral, more logical, and then you have students who are on the more emotional part of the spectrum. So you create tasks that will speak to all the different levels and all the different styles of learning so that everyone gains the maximum benefit. If you see a student struggling through an exercise, that is not a bad thing. It is probably just because it's not speaking to their style of expression, but it's also pushing them out of their comfort zone, which will help them later on in life. And then what we did was we focused on creating an environment that would help the students grow through these challenging times. So my colleague and I, we would collaborate offline and really figure out how we wanted to structure our discussions and tasks so that the students would feel safe in expressing their emotions. It's not an easy thing to do. And so we wanted to make sure that the students felt comfortable. And if students did not want to share, we definitely allowed them to keep their peace so that they would feel comfortable. And then finally, we focused on actions that created positive results. You want to focus on actions that create positive results for you and your students, okay? We want the results, but in order to get those, we need to focus on the actions. So it goes back to the points that I just made. Create, understand, differentiate, and focus. Those are the actions you focus on in order for you to gain those positive results for you and your students. Okay. Now, one point that I want to make here is that when we are teaching resilience and doing these tasks, it's actually really beneficial for you as the teacher to engage in these activities as well. You don't have to give your life story, okay, or share anything too personal. That's not where I'm going with this. However, in doing these tasks with the students, you're helping yourself as well. So this unit, it's not just for you, it's actually for you and the students. So do not forget about you, because you'll find that you benefit from these. In fact, every task that I gave the students, I did myself before giving them. So my philosophy of teaching is I will never tell a student or a teacher that I'm training or teaching to do something that I have not done myself or I'm not already working on. And in doing that, you help the students trust you deeper. It really does. Like, after we completed this unit, we found a much deeper bond between my colleague and myself and the students. We all grew closer as a class. It was an unexpected outcome, but a very special outcome as well. So when you're teaching this, the more authentic you are in your teaching, and when you participate, the students, will enthusiastically join, and they'll see, oh, it's okay. And when you do it for yourself, you're giving them permission to open up as well. And that just creates a completely new experience than before. So when we are well, and that just creates a completely new experience than before. So when we are creating tasks, we're thinking to ourselves, how do we do this? What kind of tasks? Focus on creative, practical, and insightful. And in this seminar, I'm going to give you a few ideas that I used myself. So please feel free to take it and run with them. But like I said before, you want to differentiate across the board, because you'll have students who are very practical. They have no room for the creative. It's just logical, straight A-line thinking. And that's okay. So that's where the practical tasks help those students remain engaged. Creative tasks, obviously, for your more expressive students, but the one thing that will bond both your creative and your practical logical students are insightful. You want these tasks to get your students to think, and you want them to really think deeper than just, okay, I'm going to write a story about a hero. Well, anyone can do that. However, what we want to do is, let's look at our positive qualities and create the hero from there. That way they're learning how to reflect upon what's good about themselves and maybe some things they need to work on. but it gives them a chance to really look and see what is great about them and move beyond and really move into something healthier, like a healthier mindset. Okay. So one of our activities that we did was self-inventory, and this is actually taken from one of my slides. Pardon me. So being a psychology major or graduate of psychology, we used Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you would like a copy of a blank copy of this exercise, I'll be more than happy to share it with you after the conference. So what we did was we looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we divided the pyramid from the most basic needs all the way up to the high level needs. And we had the students highlight all the needs that they have already have met. So do they have food, shelter, clothing, water, community, friendships, relationships, all the way up to the top. Then we had them go back and look at the needs that have yet to be met. So if security was one of them, they would circle that. If friendships or community was one of them, they would circle that. Then what we had them do was look at what they could do, create 2 practical, useful strategies to get those needs met. So we had some students who had to relocate to Belgium and Poland and other countries. And what we found was they realized, okay, I'm lacking in community. So their strategy was, my goal is to meet 2 people every day, or to get myself out in the community and, you know, meeting new people and speaking more, maybe learn more Polish or Dutch or something, so that they could fulfill that need. We also looked at what self-inventory is. And in fact, this is a huge part of resilience. And that's taking a consistent review of your internal and external resources and thinking about how to maintain or gain those resources. What we found here when students did this exercise was that at first it was a bit uncomfortable for them because they were realizing, ooh, we have to take a look at what's going on here at our reality. But after doing the assignment, students found that they thought they were doing bad. They thought that maybe things were really bad for them. But once they saw this on paper and saw that they had all the building blocks in place, except for maybe graduating because school was not finished yet, they realized they weren't doing so bad to begin with. All right, moving on. Creative and insightful. So the first one that we saw, that's more for your practical, logical students. However, make sure that your more expressive students do something like that, because that helps balance the creativity and logic that they have. But the creative and insightful, this was probably by far our students' most favorite activity, besides doing the hero storytelling. And we had them create a vision board. So people who are resilient, they have a vision for the future. They have present and future goals. And they have a pretty strong picture in mind as to what they want to achieve. So as you can see, these are student examples. I'll give you about a minute to really look at those. But this vision board is great. You can either do this in the classroom, you can even do it online. Students, they love using Canva and the Photoshop and digital picture applications and programs. So this is something that's a very versatile activity, but it gives them something to look forward to. It helps them remember that, you know, there is something beyond my current circumstances. They put positive words and affirmations, and this really helps them keep focused on what is really important. There's no denial of what is happening in the present, but there's certainly a pathway that they're creating for themselves, a visual and cognitive pathway that they're creating so that they are not stuck in that present situation. Okay, so we're going back to our point that we made in the very beginning, okay? Resilience is growing through challenging times instead of being held hostage by them. So when we do things like the self-inventory and making sure that those critical needs are met, just as Tatiana said in the chat, and I love that statement that you made. Yes, those critical needs need to be met before higher order needs can be met. So as they are moving up through that pyramid and creating those visions, they are no longer being tied down to their present situation, and they are refining that emotional intelligence. They're maintaining the stability. They are staying healthy, as everyone said in those chats. They are staying healthy through this and keeping a healthy mindset and remembering that there's something so much more beyond where they are at. Okay. Now we have a lot of benefits when it comes to teaching resilience. As I said, you know, depending on, you know, mindset and attitudes towards teaching resilience, there can be some resistance sometimes. So if ever asked, why should my child learn about resilience? Why should we talk about this? What we can deduce is that according to Bondi et al., teaching resilience in the classroom gives students the tools that they need to thrive and grow when adversity strikes. It's also helping the teachers grow personally and professionally as well, because we have to look at how we handle situations and determine if we want to grow or not in these situations as well. So it can be personally challenging for us as teachers, but at the same time, it does help us grow, and we have the research to support our goals and our objectives in teaching resilience. And then according to Nguyen et al., it also suggests that students who go abroad actually have more difficulties overcoming immigration, finding work, community, etc., especially learning a new language. So if you're teaching resilience in the classroom, they are now being equipped with healthy coping strategies that will give them an advantage that many students going abroad will not have. This is where storytelling can become a very powerful mechanism to help your students develop an empowering vocabulary to express their experience and how they view themselves. And this is important. It sounds a little off kilter from what we're discussing, but given the situation, the reality is that some students will have to pick up and go and move abroad because if they're with their family, they have to, you know, they have to follow the family. So they're going to go to countries that may have negative views towards Ukrainians, or maybe a misunderstanding. And this can greatly impact a student. It can greatly impact anyone, in fact. So by helping your students storytell, express their emotions, create a positive view of themselves, they will be able to go to into these countries where Ukrainians are misunderstood and be able to maintain a positive self-identity, not just about themselves, but their nationality, and continue to thrive. So you're not just helping them in the short term, this is helping them long term as well. Okay, and so storytelling. Thank you, Anna. Storytelling. This is probably my favorite part of the unit. Being a writer myself, this was something that I did in high school to help myself. Growing up with poor self-esteem and growing up in a lot of adversity myself, growing up in a home where it was never safe and the community was not safe, I had to figure out a way to basically cope in a healthy way and figure out how to project a future for myself. So I did it through storytelling. I decided I could write movies better than the Academy Award winning writers themselves. So I would write these stories and I would be the hero. And I would set it to music, and I was always saving the day and always coming out on top no matter what happened to me. So I took this idea and I applied it to the students, and I had the students become their own hero. So when the war started and the teachers and I got together and decided, how are we going to help these students? I was like, you know what? This is what helped me, and I know it will help them. So we decided storytelling. And they had to be the hero. They cannot make it up. It cannot be someone from the outside. Okay, so that's the challenge that they'll have to face. They can't have someone from the outside save them. They have to be the hero. So we looked at elements like protagonist, antagonist, positive qualities, negative qualities. We looked at contrasting these qualities and ideas so that students were able to apply elements of writing in a creative way. What I loved about the positive qualities was that the students were able to look at both their positive and negative qualities in a positive way. I apologize for the redundancy. However, they saw what was good about them. They saw what they needed to work on. But because they believed in the positive, they realized it won't be so hard to work on my flaws. My favorite hero that our students from Cherkasy created was, they are good friends. They have been friends since I started Go Camp 3 years ago. And they decided they were going to be Mr. and Mrs. Positive. And that was their superpower, that they were very positive people. And then what we saw happen in this unit was that their other friend was the one who helped them become Mr. and Mrs. Positive. Her superpower was she could take a picture of them doing something they weren't supposed to do. When they looked at the picture, they saw who they could be, and that would automatically change them into something good. So their friend catches Mr. and Mrs. Positive doing something they weren't supposed to do. They saw the picture and realized, oh, we can be positive people. And that's how they were born. So we had this thing where the students were even getting together and collaborating and creating their own positive self-image. And out of this came a hero that I did not expect to create, but I created a character known as Rockabilly Rosie. And Rockabilly Rosie is a character that I had created when I moved to Texas. She is someone who likes Southern rock and roll. And what had happened was Rockabilly Rosie started to give the assignments to the students. So she helped them develop their characters and walked them through. Now, you do not have to create your own character or anything like that. This was something that the teacher and I had agreed upon, and with my theater and creative background, I had to indulge myself, if you will. So anyways, so this character I created, she would create little TikToks And she was from she dresses like she comes from the 1950s, and she would have this Southern accent and give the students these positive and encouraging videos. And she would tell them what they needed to do. She carried the shamshir of destiny, and she fought orcs, and she was on Ukraine's side and always helping them out. And she is defined by wearing these blue and yellow flowers. So through this character that I brought to life, once again, that's just because of my creative and theatrical background, the students had an example, a running example. And so to this day, the students still get a video every now and then from Miss Rockabilly Rosie. And on our last day of Go Camp this summer, Rockabilly Rosie made a very rare live appearance to the students. And it was really fun because the students had watched just videos of her, and they had never really interacted with her before. And for the last day of camp, they're reading their poems, and she bursted onto the Zoom and took over Miss Rosemary's video. And to see the students just get excited and light up, it was really, really neat. And it's something that the students remember and everything. But she became the model of resilience for these students. And she became the model of how to create a hero within yourself. And in fact, it was creating Rockabilly Rosie that personally helped me in my own journey as a human being. So to summarize today, we discussed the definition of resilience and what it means to us. We also discussed why we should teach resilience in the classroom. Remember, we're helping students process an experience that is very unique to them, something that's going to be a very defining moment for the rest of their lives. And we want them to be able to get through this defining moment on top. And we want them to be able to move on and look back and say, I survived this and I became better. We also looked at the objectives for resiliency for the resiliency unit as it related to the school in Cherkasy. We also looked at outcomes from this unit. So we did see many positive outcomes. We also saw not just for the students, but even the teachers. We also talked about how to teach resiliency, tasks that will give students the tools they need. Also, we looked at just a little bit of research on teaching resiliency, and also looking at the power of storytelling and bringing heroes to life. So, you know, when we look at heroes, it's not to entertain fantasy, if you will, but it is to help the students understand that all of us can be a hero in some way, shape, or form, whether it's Rockabilly Rosie putting out silly little videos to make the students laugh, or like I mentioned, the student from Kremenchuk who wants to make a pig farm so he can make salo for the entire country of Ukraine, or just being kind to your neighbor. The students will see that they have the power to do something positive, and they can actually bring light to a world that's just shrouded in darkness right now. And they're going to see that they're not helpless. They actually have more at their disposal than what they thought. So I would like to thank you for listening today. If you have any questions, please feel free. Also, I can share the unit that I created, the slides that I have with that if you're interested, and any of the tasks that I shared with the conference today. So if you have any questions, feel free. If we do have time, if not, I understand.
We have several minutes. If there are some questions, feel free to ask. Anyway, So there are a lot of positive comments. Thank you for your presentation. Give regards to Rose and the positives. Thank you. If you could have the slides, it would be great.
Yes.
Of course, we will share. Thank you for sharing your experience. So, Rosemary, thank you so much.
Yes.
It was great. I believe we will network a little bit better and closer in the nearest future and in the
Yes.
future. So I'm so pleased and so happy to get to know you, and thank you from all of us.
Yes, and thank you. Yes, thank you for having me and for everyone participating in the talk today. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out. I'm on Facebook, and yes, I would love to network and get to know you all more. So take care.